All right, everyone. Getting out here to make sure we're live. I think you're all seeing us. Yep, there we are. We're live already. So I got to turn down the audio, otherwise we're going to get craziness. But see, Mike, we're on live on Shadowhunters.
Oh yeah, we're live. All right.
We're live. So let's be alive, man. Let's be alive.
Yeah, let's liven it up.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Scotty Talks About this week. And I got a very fun guest with me tonight. Really good friend. And Mike Ricksecker is here. Hi, Mike. How are you?
Doing pretty well, Scotty. How you doing tonight?
I am phenomenal. It's a great day. It's fun to have you, and it's going to be a bunch of laughs tonight. This is going to be fun.
Oh, absolutely. We always have a fun time together.
Yep. And usually I pick Mike's nose. That's what I
You've done
usually
that a
do.
couple times, yeah.
Well, see, that's we're really good friends because we take that old saying that you can't pick your friend's nose, but yes, I can.
You do, and because that was last year at the Chicago Ghost Con, and I think it was a month before that at SilCon
Right.
during the match game. You were sitting on my lap, so
I
yeah, we have a
was.
fun time.
And by the way, just so you know who Shadowhunters is, they were right next to me. Greg Cossey was right next to me in the booth right next to me at Chicago when we were there.
Oh,
So
okay,
they were
great.
right there too. That's the group. And then the other group on the other side was one of the other chapters, I think, out of Minnesota of Shadowhunters. So we were all surrounding you at the time. So that's who
Nice.
they are. So and I've joined them and I'm part of their team now. And so I broadcast live on their thing, and then we put this all over the internet so everybody can watch all week long when they miss tonight. So,
Oh,
by the way,
fantastic.
oh, Nicole says yes, I'm the nose picker guy. Nice to meet you, Nicole. Hi, Devin. Hi, Greg. Hi, everyone from Shadowhunters. So as we get going, I have like the page up so we get the people's notes. So we go from there. So Mike, why don't we start out with
All
you
right.
explaining who you are?
I'm Mike. I have coffee.
And I
I
have
mean, I don't know what
and I
you
have
want me to
Diet
say.
Coke.
So, I've got all these books back here that I've written, 11 of them now. Yeah, I'm a paranormal investigator. I've been involved some way, shape, or form for the last 30 years. I've been doing a lot of work lately with shadow people, shadow entities, and whatnot. Most recently, this past year is on the Alaska Triangle, which, because of COVID, I haven't been able to really talk to anybody out there on the road because we really haven't had too many events, which is a shame. But yeah,
Big
looking
shame.
forward to 2020 and getting back out there.
One. Add one.
Yeah, 2021. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm tired of this year.
See what
Everybody,
2020 does to you?
yeah. That's why everybody's saying, and unfortunately, this bad year, we had a leap day in it. So we had another day of this whole year. And now
Oh
we're going
yeah,
to get
yeah,
another hour of this whole year. Uh,
yeah.
So it's crazy.
Scary stuff.
But yeah, but Mike and I were always at events together, but we never got to talk much ever. And it's kind of cool that we hooked up and we finally are talking and we have a good time together. So that's kind of cool. So that's how Mike and I met through the circuit. That's where. But a lot of times we get so busy when we're at events, we don't get time to sit down and jabber with each other. That's why I wanted to have you on tonight and just to have us have a good time together.
Yeah, absolutely. That was kind of funny because we had done like several events together, and we never, got that connection, or never, got a chance to really talk. And, um, maybe it was like a, year and a half, 2 years ago, or whenever it was. You and
Yeah,
I kind of like
almost
made a
two already.
point. We need to talk, and we finally made that happen. So that's good.
And now I picked the nose. So see how far it
And then
goes
you
very
picked my
fast.
nose. Yep,
So we clicked and we understood each other and
absolutely.
we all have fun. So I know I've seen a lot of your posting about the shadow people and I wanted to start there.
Yeah.
And I wanted because I got some questions on it myself, but I also have some theories on it, and I want to see how far they match with us. So what do you
Okay,
actually
sure.
think? What do you actually think shadow people are?
Well, what I think a quote unquote true shadow person is an interdimensional being. I think there's a variety of different types of shadows. Like I believe some of the shadow entities that we see are the human spirits and probably other things as well. But I think when it comes to a true shadow person, this is something that's more interdimensional, that's crossing over into our plane of existence from some other plane of existence. I've had a number of shadow experiences throughout my life, starting from all the way when I was a little child. And from all of my observations over the years with these entities, from stories that I've collected from others to include in the book that I wrote here, A Walk in the Shadows, and then I have the Unveiling the Shadows workshop coming up here this weekend, October 24th.
Correct.
It's really helped me to kind of like hone this research. And as humans, we try to categorize things, compartmentalize stuff to make better sense of it. And so that's kind of what I've been doing. And another project that I'm working on that's kind of led me down even further this rabbit hole, down this rabbit hole, is something that called the shadow dimension. And
But isn't that your radio
it,
show too?
well, Beyond the Shadows is one of my podcasts that I
Yeah.
do. But the Shadow Dimension, this is a docu-series that I'm in the middle of doing. It's just out filming at the Conjuring House last month, and so that's going to end up being a part of this. But it's a much, much deeper rabbit hole to venture down.
Okay.
And yes, Edge of the Rabbit Hole is another podcast.
I know. See, I told you tonight's an infomercial for Mike.
It is. You said, okay, we're going to promote.
That's all I said before the show. He goes, what are we talking about? He said, your book, your book, your book, your book, your radio,
Right.
your radio. That's all we can talk about. But see, that's the difference, because I've never seen, and I've had some encounters with interdimensional, but I've never seen them as shadows. I've always, the
Interesting.
spirits I see, and I usually see spirits because they come through that way. They want to show themselves more to me, and then other people that I do readings for see these shadows, and they're usually some form of their past ones that are close to them coming
Mhm.
through, or ghosts. So how would we know the difference? I mean, that's where I'm trying to find this, because I've never heard of it this way.
Yeah, that's a good question. And we each see spirit differently, and this is kind of one of the things that I'm going to be diving into a lot this coming weekend. Basically, based on your own personal vibration and resonance and all that, I see more shadows than I see apparitions, and other people see more apparitions than they see shadows. That's not
Correct.
to mean that I don't ever see apparitions or anything like that. It's just that's kind of what I've connected with. That doesn't mean I'm a dark person or anything like that. But what was the question?
So I guess it was
Oh,
just
as far as
the
there
difference.
being somebody's loved one. Sorry,
Yeah,
this
yeah,
I'm
the
gonna take
difference.
this one out because that earbud keeps wanting to fall out. Um, yeah, as far as appearing as somebody's loved one, it's interesting because for a long time I didn't ever want to admit that. I always, for years had separated the two. Shadow people are shadow people, human spirits are human spirits, are two separate things. But I had so many people over the years come to me talking about how some of these shadows are just human spirits that can't fully manifest into an apparition. I had heard enough of these tales, and my good friend Rob Guttrow had a very compelling tale about his aunt who had appeared to him only as a shadow so that he could deliver a message to his mother. And so at some point in time, I finally just kind of broke down and admitted, okay, fine, I'll cede the point that some of these shadows could certainly be human spirits. But then I actually saw it with my own eyes
Wow.
during an investigation at Mineral Springs Hotel. It was following our Haunted Road Media Paracon a year and a half ago.
Okay.
We're just really finishing up the last bit of the investigation. It was in the abandoned part of the hotel on the top floor, and we were doing some EVP work in a room that's known as Pearl's room. It's there's a confirmed suicide up there, and we've gotten plenty of EVPs. I've gotten a lot of interaction with Pearl up there before. And as we're doing this, we start hearing some noises from down the hall. So, okay, what's going on down there? Head on out into the hall and looking down. And at the very end of the hall, there's this black smoke. And it's starting to billow up and it's starting to come forward. And it's like, okay, what's going on down there? And as it's coming closer and closer, it starts creeping up the wall on the right hand side of the hallway, and
Okay.
then it would like creep back down. And as it's coming closer, creep back up and creep back down. It does this a few times, and then finally it creeps back up that right wall, and then it starts to manifest and form, and it actually morphed into the apparition of a little girl. And there are
Wow.
reports of a of a young girl spirit that's up there in one of the rooms off to the side of that hallway. I'd never gotten any interaction with her in that room before. We tried to do some EVP work, never really got a whole lot of anything up there, but other investigators claimed that they had. And basically, here she was. She kept coming forward to us. We're kind of trying to coax her forward, come forward, come forward. There's like five of us that are seeing her. And she basically stopped right at that door and wouldn't come any closer. So here was a moment where I actually saw a human spirit come out of the shadow smoke.
Okay, that's really cool. And we have a Tom said he's taking your workshop this weekend
Yeah,
with
Tom
Nicholas.
was
He's
there for
gonna,
that.
yeah. All right, Tom, that was you. So Tom's in it. And he goes, yeah, it was pretty creepy. So,
Yeah.
Devin asks, is it only the spirit that can fully form an apparition that appears as a shadow, or could be the way that some of us see spirit or ghosts?
Yeah, I think sometimes it does have to do with the way that we resonate. So, like that's kind of like what I was saying before. Some of us see apparitions better than we see shadows, and some of us see shadows better than we see apparitions. So it's more of your own personal vibration, personal resonance, and so you'll be able to see things uh, more than others. And I think as we interact with more of these types of entities, we'll start seeing more of them as we go along. So at a very young age, I had started seeing shadow entities. And I saw some other apparitions along the way, but it was mostly shadows. And so I've been, able to connect with them a lot better than, say, other entities that are out there.
Yeah, I've been trying, and Devin watches my shows, and she was one of my students. So, but I've been trying to get the word spirit and ghost as two different meanings.
Mhm.
And because ghost I always talk about as spirits that are stuck here,
Okay.
or in this realm that haven't crossed over, gone all the way over to whatever you want to call the other side. But that's what I call spirits. Spirits are the ones that cross all the way over. So most of the stuff that we see where we ghost hunt are ghosts and not spirits, but they could both be there. And like I said, all my life, I can see people just the way they are or they were, you know what I mean, or the way they're presenting themselves now. Because most people present themselves as the age that they thought they looked best. And for me, when I die, I'm going to look like this.
You like that look, huh?
This is a good look right
All
here.
right.
but but that's the thing. And when I see shadow or shadow images, they're usually over here. I don't see them right here.
Okay.
I do see.
Interesting.
It's not that I don't see them like you know what I mean. But I do see most of them come over in this area. It, have you found that out in your research between these that people see them here instead?
Well, a lot of people will see these things out of their periphery, but I've seen them both ways. The very
Yeah.
first shadow experience that I had, I mean, basically, it was right. It was literally right in my face. I'd woken up in the middle of the night, and there was a shadow entity in the corner of my bedroom. I was only about 8 years old. I
Okay.
had no idea that it was a shadow person or anything like that. No idea from those things at that time. I just thought there was an intruder in my room, and he was about to kill me because that's what you think at that age. Um, and what it did is it approached my bed and it leaned over. So basically, I have this black face right in my face. No eyes, no nose, no mouth. It was just all black. Um, did the craziest thing. It took me by the wrists, crossed my arms across my body, and then it ran off down the hall. But my second experience was very different. This was when I was a little bit older, 13 years old, and we were moving from a house that we had lived in Massachusetts to Ohio. And as I'm unpacking boxes and putting things away, I kept seeing something in the doorway of my bedroom. It was more out of my periphery, sure. And as I would turn and look, and it would take off. And this happened several times as I'm doing all these different things in my room.
Right.
And you know, probably after, I don't know, half dozen, 8 times or whatever of this happening, I finally went and I told my mom about it and asked if she had also seen this shadow and described it to her. And she said yes, she had actually seen that as well. So I got playful with it. I started calling it Tom, like peeping Tom. I'd see it out of the corner of my eye, hey Tom, and there it would go down the hall. So two very different experiences, which is why I've been trying to categorize all these different
Okay.
shadow entities and trying to find some similarities because they appear to us in so many different forms in so many different ways. So yeah, people see them out of their periphery, some people see them straight on. It's really different for everyone,
Yeah,
or some
Nicole.
people experience them in multiple ways.
Right. And right, that's me. But Nicole says she mostly sees them on the left or the right, never really straight ahead.
Okay,
So
okay,
yeah,
yeah, exactly.
the people in the room are trying to, add in, and it's true. I mean, that's what we all do. So, but like I said to you before the show, this is going down rabbit holes, coming back, going all around where we're going. So let's talk about your parents. So
Okay.
did your mom have the abilities to see spirit, or was she okay with it when you grew up?
Well, it's an interesting question. I believe she does, and she has in more recent years admitted to me that yes, she does believe in this stuff. Now, I grew up in a Catholic family, so you weren't really allowed to talk about those things, um, and so yeah, but my mom would she would uh like whenever we'd go on vacation to a historic place, she would always buy like the accompanying ghost book. Like we'd go to Williamsburg and she would buy like the Ghost of Williamsburg book.
Okay.
When we made that move out of Massachusetts to Ohio, she bought me the book Yankee Ghost by Hans Holzer as like an interesting way to remember the area of the country that I'd spent 10 years in. So it was like, okay, cool. So yeah, so she always believed in this sort of stuff. She has seen things. A house that my parents moved into after I graduated high school, they built a house out in the country, and she did claim that there were some Native American spirits that would come through, and this is just like in recent years that she's admitted this to me. So yeah, she does see and experience things.
No, that's cool. I mean, and and she was always good with you when you saw your stuff and when you had your encounters.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't necessarily see a lot when I was a child. I had some experiences, and some of them where I was so young, like that one when I was 8 with the shadow person that crossed my arms and everything. I mean, I jumped out of bed, ran off to my parents' bedroom. It was the middle of the night. They thought I had just had a bad dream, so they just kind of consoled me. There was another time, even when I was younger than that, maybe I was around 6 or something. I don't know, but there was another time that I'd had a bad dream, ended up in their bed. I have no idea what the dream was at that point. Um, but I woke up in their bed, and hovering near the bed was this what looked to me like the image of a little girl. Now I have no idea if that was an apparition or what in the world I was seeing. And I
Right.
remember asking my mother, um, do you think that was? She didn't see it. I told her after she had woken up. I was like, do you think that was the girl I was going to marry? It was just a goofy 6 year old. Another one that's kind of funny is at my grandparents' house, or again around that same age.
Okay.
Um, we were spending the summer at their house, and I was sleeping in the upstairs bedroom, and looking at the doorway out into the hallway, and there's this white kind of shortish image but it was stocky, and it's kind of like um, morphing in and out, in and out, in and out. It wasn't when I tell the story, people ask, well, could it have been headlights? It's like, well, my bedroom that I had back home in Massachusetts, I always got headlights in that room, so I know exactly what headlights look like. But it
Right.
was just a short, stocky image that would just kind of phase in and out and phase in and out. And the next morning, go downstairs to get breakfast, and I tell my grandfather, and my father cracks up every time he tells this story because he was there in the kitchen at that time. When I told my grandfather, Grandpa, I don't know how to tell you this, but you have a blinking gorilla in your bedroom. So it was just kind of silly things like that as I was growing up. It was just a handful like that. Um, really, I think the one in which my mother did finally admit that okay, there is something going on was that one when I was 13 years old, and only the activity only lasted about 3 or 4 months, and it was kind of a nice affirmation when she said that she had seen it too. That okay, I'm not crazy. I did see something, and that
Right.
I think it kind of allowed me to get playful with it.
Right. Yeah, because when I started seeing mine in the late '60s, early '70s, very different time, and not a great time to be seeing the spirits back there. And my dad, until he's right there, by the way, my dad, who passed didn't believe me my whole life, didn't understand it, didn't know what to do, called me called me a whack job during many times because he just didn't know what it was. It was so out of the way because I'm
Yeah.
recovering Catholic too, and so I was an altar boy, and I spent time telling the priests about ghosts, and they would say, well, you need to use your discernment. And I was like, no discernment. I said, how come I can talk to them and get answers, and you just say the same thing every week? I
Right.
said, are you really talking to spirit? So we get into those arguments. But see, now the funny thing for me was I was being made fun of so much by the kids in the neighborhood and everything that I ended up trying to call them the bakers. And because to me back then, bakers were in all white. And to me, spirit is not the same color as we are. They're a lot whiter. They're more
Mhm.
opaque. You can see through them more. You know what I mean? So to me, that's what I thought they were. They'd come down into my room at night, sit down with me, and we would talk. And then I would tell the other kids in the neighborhood. I said, I saw your grandpa today. They go, how? He's he's dead. I said, well, he came down to talk to me. So it was one of those things. My mom never disbelieved, but she never believed. She just didn't know what it was. She never did. But now she's well, much more into it too, and that's great. But yeah, so I understand by calling it different things too, because I did. Because but the weirdest thing about it now is, and I'm asking this for you too, is do you notice that the kids that we told stuff about before, like for me, that made fun of me, now at our class reunions, I'm the first one they want to talk to.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Well, um, I didn't confide when I was younger. I didn't confide in a lot of people with what I was seeing because I was already getting picked on enough as a little kid because of where my birthday lied. It was right at the cutoff for kicking into the next grade. So I was like always the youngest and smallest in my class. Um, but I was, smarter than most of them and just as athletic as them. So there was a degree of hostility there. So if I was to fuel the flames with, "Hey, I saw this," yeah, that wasn't going to fly. I remember having dinner with my best friend from Massachusetts a couple of years ago, and he's kind of been following along now. And he's like, "Why didn't you ever tell me about this stuff?" And I'm like, "Really? Do you think the kids in the neighborhood would have gone for that?" So it was a lot. It was definitely different. But when I got a little older and got into high school, and this was after I'd moved to Ohio, um, there was a friend of mine named David, and this was like really my first little paranormal investigation. Um, I he was very sensitive, and I had no idea this about him until we were at this girl's house, Lori, and we're just kind of shooting the breeze and all that stuff. And she says, "Well, I think my house is haunted." And so I was like, "Oh, really? Okay." And she's telling us about how it was an older historic house in the
Mhm.
downtown of the town that we were at. And she's telling us about, there's this family graveyard that's in the backyard, and the house looks like Amityville, all this creepy stuff about the house. Um, and she tells us that every time that she goes to tack up stuff on the one wall in her bedroom, it would always fall down. It might be an hour, a day, a week later, or whatever. She couldn't keep any of her like guy posters and stuff tacked up on this wall.
Right.
So we're gonna go investigate. Have no idea what a paranormal investigation is at that time, but we're gonna go check it out. So we go up there. We're taking a look at the wall and the stuff she's trying to tack up and all that stuff. And like I said, my friend David, I had no idea how sensitive that he was. And what he did is he just put his hand flat to the wall like that, boom. And then all of a sudden he turned this bright, bright red and started sweating profusely. I'm looking at David like, oh my God, what's going on with my friend here? I'd never seen anything like this before. So he starts going like wall to wall in the house and, seeing if there are any other hot spots like this. And yeah, so that was kind of the moment that I knew that this is something I was going to be involved in for the rest of my life. But um, so he and I, kind of shared that moment, confided in a couple of things, and what was interesting was I'd actually over the years I'd kind of forgotten about a couple of things, and he and I reconnected here just recently this past year, and I asked him, hey, Dave, do you remember this story when we were at Lori's? He says, oh yeah, I remember that. And he's like, do you remember when I saw the little boy at your house? And I was like, "What?" I'm like, "Oh my god, you did." And so there was a night that he had slept over, and I
Hmm.
didn't I didn't see the little boy, but I do recall him as we're laying there, and he's like, "There's a little boy right next to me right now that was, off the edge of the bed in the room."
Right.
Um, and so, thinking back on it now, okay, here is a guy that I was able to, confide in these things about. And kind of interesting how, even though I have all these stories, I actually have forgotten about a couple of things over the years.
Yep. And you still do it. And how many investigations you do, and then you meet up with the people that you investigate, and they tell you, "Oh, you remember that thing? Oh, yeah, yeah, I remember." But
Yeah.
it doesn't come out right away, you know. So yeah, I understand that. That's crazy, you know. And for me now, it's everybody that I played football with that are coming up to me now from high school. You know, hey, remember? You know, and then all my neighborhood friends always say, "Hey, remember when you used to call them Bakers?" I go, "Yeah." So it's
Nice.
cool to get the validation that I'm remembering it correctly. You know what I mean? That's also the thing, you know. So it's pretty cool. So that got you into it, started you into this realm. What kept you in
Oh, what kept me? I think it's, well, I'd always had the interest over the years. So, um, the challenge was back then, in some people, you and I don't have a problem relating to this, but some people have don't understand what it was like before the internet came along.
correct?
So, how do you get your hands on information, especially if you're in a small town?
Right.
There was nothing at the library or anything like that. So, anytime I could get my hands on, any book, or if there was an old rerun of In Search of that came on, that like, oh, they're doing Ghost today, and Leonard Nimoy, and he's interviewing Hans Holzer or
That
somebody.
was
It's, oh, okay, this is cool.
those
Um,
were great shows.
yeah, yeah, it was. So it what really helped was, the advent of the internet, because then you could connect to people on all these different bulletin boards. And I just got an email the other day that they're shutting down Yahoo groups. I remember being very involved in Yahoo groups and all the different
Me too.
paranormal groups that were in there. Yep. So that really kind of helped to get that interest fueled, as I'm kind of stationed in Alaska in the Air Force. I had some experiences up there that I questioned. And so kind of as I moved about, and I'm a young adult and I have a family and all that, it was kind of these things that helped keep me going. And then I think the universe just sort of intervened. I've always been a writer. I've been doing that since I was 7 years old. I'd written a mystery novel that was, my first published book. Um, when I was 7, I was writing little mystery stories. I always had an interest in that. I have wrote little ghost stories as well, and I actually wrote some historic fiction. So all those things have always been with me. But um, I was living in Maryland at the time, and uh, my editor that came along with Schiffer, because I published 3 books through Schiffer
Okay.
prior to Hunter Road Media, and she said, "Well, I know you're, a fiction writer, but you're right there in Maryland. We are expanding our line of paranormal books. I see that you have an interest in the paranormal, because I had like some paranormal short stories up on my website." And she said, "Would you be interested in, writing a nonfiction book about true stories in Maryland?" And I was
Cool.
like, "Yeah, absolutely." So I think that was the universe, because it's just snowballs from there. I think that was the universe intervening and saying, "Hey, Mike, this is the path you need to go down. We kind of gave you some nudges, got you a start, all those years ago. We kept your interest up, but now you need to get going over here big time now."
Yeah. You know, and I took two pauses in my journey. I did it in the 60s, and then it was in the 80s, and then it was in the 90s again, you know, and it was the late 90s where it was Derek Accord. Remember Derek from
Yeah.
Most Haunted? I had him
Yeah.
on my radio. I was doing radio back then, and I had him on my radio show as a guest. And I lied to him. I said, you know, every guest on my show has to give me a reading, just because I wanted a free reading from him. And he goes, sure,
Nice.
I'll do it. And so he did, and he told me everything I'm doing today back then. And I thought it was weird because I didn't even really know the term medium other than seeing him on TV. You know what I mean? I just knew
Right.
that I saw stuff. So that was kind of in. And then went I still went, you know, with corporate America for a long time until this year. You know, it was one of those things that the universe just finally pushes you and goes, poop, go, do, you got to do this. You know what I
Yep.
mean? So So, we've been in the ghost, we've been here since Hans Holzer, and we're all the way here to Johnny Zaffis now. You know what I mean? So the whole family goes up and down. But what do you think and I like to ask this a lot, but what do you think is the wrong thing we're doing in the paranormal now, or overhyped?
Oh, what's the wrong thing that we're doing? Oh, I think demons are overhyped right now.
Bing, bing, bing,
What?
bing, bing,
Bing,
bing,
bing,
bing,
bing.
bing,
Yeah,
bing.
yeah.
You win. You won. You are the host of the night. Woohoo!
Well, it's
I,
like every show that's popular right now, it has to be a demon, or at least that's kind of what the networks have. And I get it, 20 years ago when the shows are first really starting to come out, and everybody points to Ghost Hunters, but Scariest Places on Earth was on before Ghost Hunters.
yes, it was.
Um, and it was like, okay, this is different. We are investigating the paranormal, and a lot of the episodes, they were just debunking stuff, and they didn't actually confirm any hauntings, and it just seemed like as it went along, it was like, no, we need more haunts, we need more haunts. And then every place that everybody went to, as more shows came out, every place was haunted. And then it was like more severe haunts, and then there was like an incubus or a succubus case or something, and now everything's demon. So it's like we have to keep pushing the bar, pushing the bar, pushing the bar. And that's, to me, that's just the networks. And
I agree. I
I get
agree.
people that email me saying, well, I have a demon. It's like, why do you think you have a demon? Well, because a candle was thrown off my mantle. And it's like, that doesn't mean you have a demon.
Right.
But that's what they saw on TV.
Right. And I had a lady that wanted this demon out of her house and wanted me to walk around with her on Zoom and or on what was it, Facebook back then or whatever we were on. And so about three-quarters of the way through, I said, okay, so what do you want me to do with this in your house? Oh, you got to get rid of it. You got to get it. I said, okay, I'm going to ask your dad to leave right now. And she goes, what? And the reason I'm saying this story is because she kept seeing the shadow of him by
Yeah.
by her desk, and he would sit there and watch her work. And she herself too was a writer, so he'd like to read what and see what she's typing, and so
Oh,
he was around her a lot. But she was so scared because she watched TV
yeah.
and
Yeah.
now
And
movies.
people fear what they don't understand. You have TV that's feeding that fear, and they see this shadow, and so they immediately fear the thing because they don't understand it. And yeah, a lot of times it's just somebody's father, somebody's Aunt Jane, or whatever,
Exactly.
and just a human. Yeah.
Right. And but see, that's also the thing for me with Ghostbusters. Everybody says
Yeah, yeah, the
all my
Ghostbusters.
Ghostbuster stuff, but that to me was the first time, and I've talked to Dan Aykroyd and Ernie Hudson because I've been at events with them, and I tell them all the time that this was the thing that made me feel normal for the first time. Here was '84. I mean, I was born in '65. I'm an old guy, but I saw ghosts early, and then I saw them in the '80s again, and then here they came out, and it made it more normal. It didn't make it more paranormal for me. It made it more normal.
Right.
And that's why I wear it, because I still thank them, because a lot of the things I don't think we would have had if it was a Ghostbusters. You know,
Yeah, yeah. Ghostbusters gave it a good kick, and I will say that is one good thing about the television shows. I can't disparage them
yes,
too much because
I,
I've
I
been on a
agree.
few,
I
but
agree.
yeah, that's one good thing that they've helped to make people aware that this happened, or that these things happen, and more people have been able to come forward and share their story because they see other people on TV saying, "Hey, this happened to me," so it helps them realize, "Hey, I'm not alone. Other people experience this too," which has
Yeah.
actually been a good thing.
Have you ever met Patrick Burns?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Patrick was on Haunting Evidence. Well,
Mhm.
he was there, and we were at an event together, and I asked him to be on my radio show. We ended up talking that night after the event, just hanging out, and we found out that we worked at Six Flags in Great America in Chicago together on the same ride, and we would talk ghosts the whole time. And he goes,
Oh wow.
the person in my speech was you, because I always remember somebody I worked with at Six Flags that always told me that ghosts aren't scary. And he goes, that's why I got
That's
it. And,
hilarious.
and he was one of the first TV shows on TV, because
Yeah.
he always had that same drive and that same energy, and it's amazing, to see that. And I understand the TV shows have helped. I mean, they're helping us make it there. But the people that want to make more of it, than what it really is, communication with spirit is amazing.
Yes.
No matter how you
It really
talk
is.
to them, how you do it, whatever, it's amazing. It doesn't need to be the scare factor.
Right. And that's I guess they figure that's what sells or whatever, but it's to me it's more meaningful when you're just sitting down and you're connecting with the spirit. I remember being in it was an old World War II airplane,
Oh, cool.
and we're trying to run our little investigation or what have you, and there's just nothing going on. It's dead. And finally, I make mention that, hey, I spent 6 years in the Air Force. I know that that came out of the old Army Air Corps, and that's who you would have phoned for. And this airplane had actually seen action during World War II. And then all of a sudden, boom, 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 everything starts lighting up. We start getting EVPs and feedback, and we start having a very nice conversation with the navigator from this airplane. So it's just sitting down and talking with people. It's what it
Right.
is.
And that's why I'm sitting down and talking with you tonight, because
Yeah,
it's more exciting.
absolutely.
But that's what it is. It's about, and that's the thing too, is it's a lot of respect. But I think when people, when and I get this with other mediums too. I get that they tried to bring more to this, and it doesn't need it. It really doesn't.
Right.
And Devin puts it, we just need more awareness and education. That's what it is. And I think that people that are out here really doing the work and understanding, like you, is really what it's about, trying to define this and trying to help people understand this more. I think that's the biggest thing of this. And I still don't think it's known anywhere near what it's supposed to be.
Oh no, there. I mean, we are just like here. We're at the very, very tip of the iceberg, and just really starting to crack into this. And we probably aren't supposed to know everything, but I think there is much more that we will and should know. And I think in the years that are coming, um, we are going to start connecting a lot more with spirit, and there will be I think the ancients knew a lot more than we know now about spirituality, and we're going to start tapping into some of that lost ancient knowledge about all of this.
Yep. Oh, I agree 100%. And I think it was in this modern era, even if you look back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, we had a very spiritual movement going on, especially in the United States, with spiritualism and all that type of stuff. But it wasn't. It was the 50s that killed all that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So but you go
that mid
back in time.
20th century.
Yeah, but you go back in time. There was Rome that killed a lot. You know what I mean? There's a lot of nations that came into power that wanted the knowledge themselves because they knew that the knowledge is power. So if we take the knowledge from the people, then they have the power. And not going to go way down the road. That's another rabbit hole we could go on for
It
days.
is.
But but that's what it is. And if you look back in history, you'll see every one of them. And that's when we go down and then we go back up because we start feeling it. And that's what I believe is happening now. And I think that's some of the reason the coronavirus and all this is here is to get us more spiritual again and not just and start being as a one, not divided. And we're so divided right now that's going to change it. We're going to be ushered into the next phase. That's what I think is happening. So there,
Yeah. Well.
off my
Yeah.
soapbox.
Well. No, that's great. Well, people talk about how we're on the dawn of the age of Aquarius, and we're on the brink of enlightenment, which I agree. And you know, I, I like how you pointed out that over the years, we've had people come into power and have suppressed that, and so there is an ebb and a flow to all of this, and
There is.
hopefully, yeah, and hopefully that doesn't happen again here anytime soon. I think one of the things that we are supposed to do is help pass knowledge on to the next generation, because once we're gone, everything that we've come to know about is going with us. So we have to leave something behind so that the next generation can keep moving forward, rather than you know eh, we talk about history repeats itself. The
It does.
humans work in a cycle, because we forget over the years. Get a couple generations in and they forget what happened a couple generations ago. So we need to figure out a way to give to the next generation so that they hopefully don't forget.
Right. Governments burning books and burning, scrolls,
That
and
hurts.
that hurts tons because what do we not know about the time before Jesus, and before Rome, and
Can you imagine how much we lost when we lost the Library of Alexandria? Oh my gosh.
exactly. You know what I mean? And and then you look at some of the amazing societies that were out there, like the Mayans. You know what I mean? And know that they had the technology to have a calendar last all these years. You know what I mean? It's not that the world was coming to an end. That was just they picked the time and they stopped. You know what I mean? So it's really weird on how everyone's there, and the knowledge is still here. We just got to find it again. We just got to grow in it. You talked when we first started about the shadow people, and I want to get back to it a little bit, but I want to talk about your beliefs in, because you say they come from another dimension. Because to me, I believe all dimensions and all time is happening at the same. I think dimensions are like this.
Hmm.
So I'm going to
Yeah,
throw it to
I
you and let you know, because a lot of people know my view on this.
yeah. So what I call it, I have what I call a quote unquote stacked time theory. So instead of everything working in a river of time,
Right?
every moment that has ever existed, is existing now, and will exist are basically all just stacked on top of each other. And we don't necessarily know what the catalyst is, but occasionally, and again, I think it goes more back to vibration and resonance that uh, two moments in what we call time, because time is a human construct just to explain our reality.
It is. Yeah.
Um, I believe that two of these moments are vibrating or resonating at the same frequency for a moment. And so you end up with these time lapses and time slips, or you might see an apparition. A number of stories that I've heard about how, I was just out at the Conjuring House where this happened with Andrea Perrin
Hmm.
and her family, where there
She's
was a
amazing.
moment there.
I love her
Oh yeah,
stuff.
she's amazing. She's
Yeah.
amazing. Um, but they're looking into the parlor from the dining room, and all of a sudden they see this family that's there, and they're cooking dinner and all this. And a couple of the people looked back at them like Andrea and her family were the ghosts, and they're saying to each other, "Well, would you look at that?" And so here's two moments in time where Andrea and her family are looking back into the past, and
Right.
whoever that family was are looking into
Looking
the
in the
future.
future. Yeah.
Yeah, which is really really fascinating. So I think so I have a story that I tell for an example of this in when it comes to like a shadow experience,
Okay.
and it's kind of the whole crux of my book, A Walk in the Shadows.
I know I wanted
Um,
to sell your book, so I didn't want to go all night on it.
yeah. so and I have a diagram in there that explains it. So doing a paranormal investigation at a restaurant called Johnny V's in Muskogee, Oklahoma. The restaurant's no longer the building's still there, but the restaurant isn't in existence anymore. But I was just doing a final photo sweep of the restaurant. A couple guys were upstairs in the bar area, and a couple others were out in the restaurant areas on my own. And as I'm walking into the main doors of the kitchen, all of a sudden, this just wisp of a shadow darts across the room, and you heard the boom, the bang of this side door, this little flimsy metal side door that waiters and waitresses would carry large trays of food through. The interesting thing about this is that the door didn't move at all. And this is something you could just like tap with your finger and it's going to move. And you heard it
Right.
bang. And I have an audio clip. I wasn't running video at the time. I was taking photos.
Hmm.
And I call out to the others, "Hey, did you hear that?" And they're like, yeah, we heard that. And I explained to them what happened. And, they're finding it interesting. All of a sudden I'm thinking, these guys screwing with me. Yeah. So I started asking them, did you guys throw something at the door? No, 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 because they were off doing their own things. I even went through the door. I'm looking around on the ground. I'm like, they had to have thrown, there's nothing on the ground. But even if they had thrown something at the door would have moved. It was just that really light and flimsy.
Right.
So what I think happened here is that as I walked into that kitchen, that entity, whatever it was on a different plane of existence. And when I walked in, I scared it. I mean, maybe it saw me as a shadow, as a ghost. I have no idea, but I scared it. And I think on its plane of existence, it just took off right through that door. That door opened wide and it went running on through. I didn't see it because I'm in a different dimension, different plane of existence. However, sound works on a different wavelength. And so I think the sound of that was able to travel the dimensions and I was able to hear it, but not see it. And so that's, where I've really started going down the rabbit hole with all these different dimensions.
Yeah. And see, and I had a theory. I know somebody that has a theory that that us mediums, we get the information as like little wormholes that open up between it and it shoots through, so that we can get the information from the other dimension. That's how we can talk to spirits. It's that they're in a different plane, but we can still talk to them because the message goes boop, 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 boop. There's a way to
Okay.
communicate, or there's a way to see between there. I don't think the veil's thin. I think they're already thin. You know what I mean? I don't believe in that thing, because I believe that they're right on top of each other, just like you. But I see them sideways. So I
Okay.
see everything happening at the same time. So the older Scotty's here, the younger Scotty's here. So we can all see each other at one time. But yeah, I agree with you 100%, because I've always wondered, how do I get, and I've always wanted to be studied, because how do I get my messages as a medium? How do they come in? What part of the brain, they come in? Chuck Kennedy, who's ill right now, but he always, he hooks you up, and he says it's in the left portion of your brain, in here. The rest of this shuts down, so it's not like stored memories. So that's kind of cool too. So, but how
Interesting. Okay.
how but how do I interact with other spirits? How do I interact with them? And if I can see them, and I know they see me, how is that? You know what I mean? So that's the same thing you're talking about, and that to me is so exciting.
Oh, it is. Because in a sense, this is actual time travel. We talk about wanting to, to be able to travel into other, other times and places and things like that. And I think in a sense we are already doing it if we're having these different time slips. And a lot of our science fiction has, these machines that they've built in order to do that time travel. Of course, the DeLorean and all of that.
Right.
But um, I've always thought that if time travel is real, and I do believe it is, that it's more like, do you remember the old movie Somewhere in Time with
Yes.
Christopher Reeve and Jane
Yes.
Seymour?
Yeah.
Basically, he just manipulated his own conscious to believe that he was in a previous place in time and was able to send his consciousness back there. And so I think that
Agree.
real time travel is more like that.
I do, and it's not Star Trek, and it's not Star Wars. You know what I mean? It's just because that makes no sense to me. Because you to go this way and continue to go this way to get to the, no matter how fast you go, but we know you can only go the speed of light.
Right.
So it's like, it doesn't make sense. You have to either bend it, go through it. You have to somehow be able to get through each dimension, and I think that's the time travel.
Yep.
Cool. Very cool that we have very similar ideas. So that's really
Yeah, it
kind of
seems
neat.
like we do. Cool.
Yeah, that is neat. I like that a lot. Oh, so
Got some comments and questions down there.
yeah. So Tom says, um, when you never had kids to carry on your memories, I need to find a way and a good medium. Well, you found a good medium,
There
and
you go.
to communicate all my thoughts and experiences. Yeah, that's, when he passes too, that's what it is. But the other thing is right. And then Devin says it's also the concept of soul retrieval, going back to your past points for healing.
That's interesting. Yeah, yeah. Being able to go back to, I mean, think about it. I mean, if you just go to a location that you have been before, you could connect with your previous self.
Correct.
It makes sense.
But then that's also the other thing, that my other theory is that's why we see spirits in different realms. Because some people say, well, I don't see the spirit's feet, but then you find out the floor was raised. So
Right.
you're close to the same building. You're in the same building, but it was remodeled. So, or they go through a wall. And I said, well, maybe that's where the door was. How do we know what it looked like back then? We're seeing them interact in the way they see it, not the way we see it. And I
Right.
had that experiences at the Stanley, hotel. I've had where things have changed, and you see the spirit go through what it used to be.
Yeah,
So
I've heard stories of like in England where some people have observed like the heads of Roman soldiers, you know, on the street, like essentially going down the street. And like, why is it the heads on the street? Well, because back in the day when it was controlled by the Romans, well, the street level was a lot lower.
right, right. They have whole cities underneath their other cities over there.
Yeah.
They just build on
Yeah, we
top.
even have cities like that here in America where there's a whole underground city because it's, everything's been raised up over the years.
Disney. Well, they made it. They made their own city underneath there.
Right.
Just joshing. So in this whole thing, and from my limited knowledge, and I don't have a ton, but I think string theory will then, in time, make this all normal because it's just going to be the binding of everything, and it's going to prove that we do exist after death. Because once again, I just believe that science. Everyone says, "Well, you're a medium. Do you believe in science?" I said, "Heck yes, I do,"
Yeah.
because I believe we're energy because we can't be created or destroyed. That's why we live forever.
Yeah, absolutely. We're all connected. Everything in this universe is connected. And so, I don't know why we've done this for millennia where, you have the spiritual crowd here and the scientific crowd there. It's like you guys realize that these are all interconnected and they work together. So it's actually in the middle here somewhere. And essentially we're all stardust. We all came out of, the Big Bang together. And we were all formed from the same matter of the universe and then in this solar system and so forth. So we're all connected.
So and now I'm going to really get deep, and I'll probably lose you here. But see, I think the Big Bang is this universe that we're in right now. So this dimension.
So yeah, okay. Yeah,
You
I don't
understand what I'm
believe that
saying?
this is the first. I don't believe this is the first incarnation of this universe. I think we've
Correct.
had several, and it keeps going around in a cycle. So that
Correct.
basically, people say, well, what was before, the Big Bang? The universe, just a
Right.
different incarnation of it.
Right. Yeah, that's what I believe. Because I think each one that we get is just another incarnation. It's all together,
Yep.
and then that's how it keeps going. All right.
Cool. So we're
See,
really on the same page here.
we really, more than I thought I'd lose you there.
No, not at all.
Because
No,
to
there's
me,
what are
to me
the
that's
yeah
very strange.
what are the books that I'm working on right now? In a lot of the different podcasting that I do right now, I've been talking about the connected universe and how all these things relate to each other. So yeah, I've been going down these rabbit holes a lot lately. So I'm good that we're having this conversation, or I'm glad that we're having this conversation.
Yeah, and 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 I'm just happy because I want people to think, because what we see right now is not really what's here. I mean,
Right.
just because there's so much more that we need to do. I mean, yes, mediums can get a point, but investigators need a point. Science can get a point. We need to put it all together. But that goes back to my point of higher existence, is the fact that we've always believed that our God, our society, our party, is better than anyone else's, and nobody can have good thoughts on any other than our own party. You know what I mean? And that's the way
Right.
this time we've done it. You know what I mean? And to me, like, we talk about aliens, um, briefly, shadow people coming from but I believe that I believe that they're just in a different dimension. I believe that they're living differently, but because all the dimensions can be traveled through.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, aliens could be, something interdimensional. There's a lot of ideas that some of the shadows that we see are actually extraterrestrials, and they very well could be.
Hmm. So Greg in the chat room says, Mike, when you encounter any ghosts on your investigations, do you offer help? And if you do, what do you do?
I mean, it depends on if they ask for help.
True.
The couple times that's popped up, usually it's, they have some piece of information that they, want to divulge, or some message, or what have you. Um, usually they're just, talk about, who they are or where they're from. They don't usually ask me for help, I guess. Usually people asking for help are, like, if we're investigating a residence, they want answers. That's who wants help. And the ghost that's there is just like, yeah, I'm here, this is who I am. So,
Right. That's cool. So then Devin again says reincarnation universe actually exemplifies macro and microcosms. And that makes sense.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah. No,
cool.
I certainly believe in reincarnation. What's interesting to me, so if time is working concurrently, past, present, future, all at once. So could you go to a specific location in which you've had a past life and interact with your past self? Maybe.
But see that back then you would know the energy, but you would not know the body because the body's different. And most people
Right.
have to look at a body, not an energy. That's why I think empaths are stronger at this because they can feel the energies and they can feel the connections of past lives. Because
Hmm.
I do that with people that I'm here and I know that I've known them before. And, I
Okay.
don't know their face, but I know the energy of that person. I know that we were connected in some way. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, that makes sense.
that's what I think. And the other thing that I've always wanted to try, because if I can channel spirit, which I can leave my body, let a spirit come into my body. I'm wondering if I could go as my spirit into somebody else's body.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So like if there's any, like if we're here, it would be like Freaky Friday, where we switch places.
Yeah.
But but why wouldn't that work? Because if we allow spirit to come through us, to talk through us, why couldn't we do that the same way? Why couldn't I come through you, Mike, and talk as me through you?
No, I mean it does. I mean it does make sense if you think about it like that. I mean the body's just a vessel, so why
Right.
couldn't we switch what goes in the vessel? Yeah.
And then my body's breaking down, so I want somebody's body. So let me know if you want to give it
Ah, okay, I see
up.
how it is.
Gotta get a younger one instead of a baby again. I just want to keep what I have. That's what I want on my tombstone, by the way. Um, don't touch my shit. I'll be right back.
Nice.
Keep all my bank accounts open and give myself
Right,
a
right.
password. So that's funny. All right, so we're getting to that time already. Can you believe that? That went quick.
Yeah, it went by quick. Guess we got just a couple minutes left.
Yeah. So why don't we promote?
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
that's my latest book, A Walk in the Shadows. That's the one that's a complete guide to shadow people. You can find that at my website, MikeRicksecker.com. And of course, you can go out on Amazon, grab that. There's also the audiobook version as well. So if you have an Audible account or you want to get an Audible account or whatever, you can listen to it as well. And then I have all these other fantastic books back here. I do have the Unveiling the Shadows workshop this weekend. It's October 24th, 2 to 4 p.m. And it's a $25 workshop. So we're going to go a couple of hours and really, really dive deep into the realm of shadows. Really going to be the deepest dive I've ever done on that. And so
well, cool. That sounds great.
I've got 20. Yeah, I've got 20 slots available for that. Well, that's how many I was going to make available. Several people, of course, signed up since then. So I've got a handful left if you guys want to jump on that. And you can sign up for that as well at MikeRicksecker.com or hauntedroadmedia.com.
Okay, that's cool. I have a show this weekend in Wausau, Wisconsin. I'm doing gallery reading and readings all day. So I'm out there, and then I'll be at the Riverside Theater again this week, doing ghost hunts all night long. So those are kind of fun. So
Cool.
yeah, people can buy tickets. I think we still have one or two tickets left for this week, but you can buy tickets and come ghost hunting with us at the Riverside. So very excited to have you here, Mike. It's been fun to talk.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, always fun talking with you, Scotty. And it's been too long because
Too long.
all this crazy COVID stuff. So it's been a year.
I know that sucks. So, but let's not make this, let's make this a habit where we see each other more often or talk.
That would be great. I agree.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you guys very much for watching. Next week, I have psychic medium Beth Peters on for me from Atlanta. She's coming on with me. She used to be on my radio show. We used to do a lot together. So I'm having her back, and we're going to be back to the old radio days. We're doing some of those shows, getting people back together. That's been too long. So thank you guys. Thank you, Mike. We'll see you guys next week right here on Shadowhunters page. Thank you. Good night, everybody.